It was 2:17 a.m. when billionaire Tyler Jenkins' phone began to ring. A sound so sharp and unexpected, it sliced through the silence of his penthouse like a siren. Half asleep, Tyler reached for it, groggy, irritated, but the moment he saw the caller ID, his breath caught in his chest. Juliet Robinson. A name he hadn't spoken in almost 3 years. A name that once meant everything, and then meant nothing. He hesitated, thumb hovering over the green icon. Why would she be calling him? Especially at this hour? Then came another buzz, followed by a second line blinking through, St. Mary's Hospital. His heart froze. He swiped to answer. Mr. Jenkins. A nurse's voice trembled on the other end. I'm so sorry to disturb you, but Juliet Robinson is in labor. There are complications. We've run every test. You're the only compatible blood match within reach. If we don't get a transfusion soon, she might not make it. Silence filled the room. For a moment, Tyler said nothing. He just stared at the ceiling, his mind spinning. Juliet. His ex-wife. The woman who betrayed him, humiliated him, tore apart everything they built. Now she needed him to survive. The irony stung like a fresh wound. Welcome to our channel. If you love stories about love, forgiveness, and second chances, you're in the right place. Please hit the subscribe button, and let us know where you're watching from. Your support helps us bring more stories like this to life. Tyler Jenkins wasn't used to surprises. In business, he anticipated every move before it happened. But tonight, nothing prepared him for that call. He sat up on the edge of his bed, rubbing his temple. The lights of downtown Los Angeles blinked faintly outside his window, a skyline that had once meant power and pride. Now, all he could hear was the nurse's voice replaying in his mind. You're the only one who can save her. He turned toward the photo frame on his nightstand, a picture from another life. Juliet laughing in the garden, sunlight on her face, his arms wrapped around her waist. They looked invincible then, like nothing could touch them. But life had other plans. He clenched his jaw and muttered. She made her choices. Now she can live with them. The words sounded harsh, even to him. He grabbed his phone again. Missed calls stacked on the screen. One from Dr. Spencer, the family physician. Two from Juliet's mother, whose number he still hadn't deleted. And another, a text message that simply read, She's asking for you, Tyler. Please. His chest tightened. He didn't want to care. He shouldn't care. Not after what she'd done. But beneath the anger, something else stirred. A memory. The sound of her voice the day she told him she was pregnant, before everything fell apart. Her trembling words, we are going to be parents. He'd waited his whole life for that moment. And now, years later, that same woman was in a hospital bed fighting for her life. The hospital corridor. Fluorescent lights. A nurse pacing. The sound of distant monitors beeping. Her blood pressure's dropping. A doctor shouts. Where's the donor match? The nurse shakes her head. We've called him. No response yet. Juliet, pale and sweating, grips the edge of the bed. Her breathing shallow. Her eyes flicker open for a moment, whispering a name only she can say with that kind of ache. Tyler. Her voice cracks. Tell him. I'm sorry. Back at the penthouse, Tyler finally stands. He paces the room, running a hand through his hair. For the first time in years, he's unsure. He opens the window. The city wind rushes in, carrying with it memories he's tried so hard to bury. He remembers the way Juliet looked the day she left. Her tears, his silence, the unspoken war between pride and pain. He'd built an empire since then. New ventures, new homes, new people. But some ghosts, they don't disappear just because you build higher walls. He mutters. She wasn't there when I needed her. Why should I be there now? His assistant's voice echoes in his head. Don't let emotions cloud your judgment, sir. He glances at the clock again. 2:34 a.m. Somewhere across the city, Juliet's life is hanging by a thread. And he holds the scissors. Suddenly, a knock on his door. It's the security guard from the lobby, out of breath. Mr. Jenkins, the hospital just called again. They said if you leave now, they can prep in time. If not. Tyler cuts him off, coldly. Tell them I'll think about it. The guard hesitates, then nods, and steps back into the elevator. Tyler watches him go, then turns toward his own reflection in the glass. His face looks older than he remembers. Harder. Emptier. And for the first time, he wonders if money, power, and pride can really fill the space that love once left behind. Meanwhile, at St. Mary's, a young janitor named Matt Tregoning mops the hallway floor. He hums softly to himself, unaware that fate is about to draw him into a story much bigger than his own. Inside the delivery room, Juliet's monitors begin to spike again. Doctors rush in, nurses scramble. Still no word from the donor, someone asks. None, comes the reply. And then, the attending physician whispers, if he doesn't come in the next 30 minutes, we might lose both of them. The camera pans out. Rain starts to fall outside the hospital window. A clock ticks toward 2:45 a.m. And somewhere across town, Tyler Jenkins stands at the edge of his bed, torn between revenge and redemption. The city slept, but Tyler Jenkins couldn't. He stood by the window of his penthouse, the glow of Los Angeles burning faintly below. His phone still rested on the nightstand, screen black, call unanswered. Every second that passed, guilt began to whisper in his chest. But so did anger. Because 3 years ago, he swore he'd never go back. Back then, Tyler wasn't just a billionaire. He was a man in love, the kind that believed loyalty meant forever. He met Juliet Robinson at a charity gala. She wasn't from his world. She worked as a junior reporter covering the event, fumbling through her first big interview. When she asked him questions, she didn't treat him like a billionaire. She treated him like a man. And for the first time, Tyler forgot about balance sheets and boardrooms. Within a year, they were inseparable. Late-night walks, spontaneous road trips, laughter that echoed through marble hallways. Juliet filled the quiet corners of his life with something money couldn't buy, peace. But love, as Tyler would learn, doesn't always stay pure. The betrayal came quietly. Not with shouting, but with headlines. Billionaire's wife caught in exclusive leak scandal. Insider claims Juliet Jenkins sold confidential details about her husband's empire. Tyler had built Jenkins Enterprises on trust, high-stakes mergers, billion-dollar negotiations, reputations that could crumble overnight. And suddenly, someone leaked a major deal before signing, costing the company millions. When investigators traced the leak to Juliet's email, Tyler couldn't believe it. He confronted her, trembling with disbelief. "Tell me it's not true," he'd said. "Tell me you didn't sell me out." Juliet's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't sell you, Tyler. I was trying to protect you." She explained that a rival company had blackmailed her, threatened to expose false accusations if she didn't cooperate. She thought she could manage it, that she'd only share harmless details. But in business, even a whisper can become a weapon. Tyler felt the ground shift beneath him. "You lied to me," he said, voice trembling. "You didn't protect me. You destroyed everything we built." That night, he walked out and never went back. The divorce was brutal. Every headline, every court appearance, every whispered rumor about the billionaire and his betrayer, it was everywhere. Juliet disappeared from public view, retreating into quiet obscurity. Tyler threw himself into work. He rebuilt his empire stronger, richer, colder. He told himself he'd moved on. He dated models, influencers, women who never got close enough to hurt him. He built towers across cities, but not once did he build peace inside himself. And then, one night, months later, a letter arrived. It was from Juliet. No lawyers. No signature. Just 4 lines written in her handwriting. The same looping script that once signed his birthday cards. "I never meant to hurt you. I was pregnant when you left. I didn't tell you because I thought you hated me. If you ever want to meet your child, you know where to find us." He never replied. He folded that letter and locked it inside a drawer, like a wound he refused to clean. Now, years later, that same drawer still sat in his study. The letter still there, unread since the day it arrived. Tyler walked toward it slowly, drawn by something heavier than curiosity, guilt. He pulled it open, took out the old note, and stared at it in the faint light. Her words hit harder now that he knew she was in that hospital, fighting for her life, and maybe for their child's. If you ever want to meet your child. He'd told himself she was lying, that she wrote it to manipulate him. But what if she wasn't? What if the child fighting for life tonight was his? He sank into the leather chair, letter in hand, as the night pressed against the glass. He whispered under his breath, "You think you can run from the past, but it always finds you." Meanwhile, across town, Juliet's condition worsened. Machines beeped faster. Doctors shouted instructions. And in between contractions, she clutched the edge of the bed, whispering one name again and again. "Tyler, please." A nurse tried to soothe her. "Stay with us, Juliet. We are doing everything we can." Her eyes flooded. "He won't come," she said weakly. He hates me." But the nurse, a woman named Diane who'd seen too many tragedies, held her hand and said softly, "You'd be surprised what a heart remembers when it's faced with losing what it once loved." Juliet's tears slid down her cheeks, and in that moment, even she stopped believing her own strength. Back in the penthouse, thunder rumbled across the skyline. Tyler paced again, his mind a battlefield between reason and emotion. His driver, an older man named Carl, appeared in the doorway holding his coat. "Sir, I heard about Ms. Robinson. I already prepared the car in case you decide to go." Tyler didn't answer right away. He looked at Carl, then back at the city lights. "You think I should?" Carl hesitated. "Sir, I've worked for you since before you met her. I saw how she changed you. She made you smile, not the public one, the real one." He sighed. "You don't have to forgive her. But if you can save her, and you don't, you'll remember that for the rest of your life." Tyler's jaw tightened. Carl's words struck deeper than he wanted to admit. He turned back toward the letter, Juliet's words glowing faintly under the lamplight. And for a fleeting second, his pride cracked. He reached for his coat. But then, a voice inside him, cold, bitter, whispered, "She chose her side, remember." His hand froze. At that same moment, Matt Tregenning pushed his mop across the hospital hallway, his earbuds in, gospel music faintly playing. He had no idea that destiny was about to hand him a moment that would change 3 lives forever. Inside the delivery room, Juliet's vitals dipped again. Doctors shouted for more blood. "Still no match," one said grimly. And as the storm raged outside, Tyler Jenkins stared at his reflection, a man torn between revenge and redemption. The rain hadn't stopped since midnight. By the time Tyler Jenkins finally stepped out of his penthouse, the city was soaked in silver. Carl drove in silence, the hum of the engine the only sound between them. Tyler stared out the tinted window, watching the droplets race down the glass like time itself, unstoppable, unforgiving. He didn't know if he was going to help. He just knew he had to see her. The nurse's words still echoed in his mind. "If we don't get a transfusion soon, she might not make it." He exhaled sharply, trying to drown out the feeling creeping up his spine, fear. Not of blood, not of hospitals, but of facing the one woman who had broken him in ways no business loss ever could. At 3:06 a.m., the black Rolls-Royce stopped in front of St. Mary's Hospital. The wind howled. The rain splashed against his shoes as he stepped out, coat collar turned up. Inside, nurses moved quickly, voices low but urgent. Monitors beeped like ticking clocks counting down to something none of them could stop. When Tyler entered the lobby, heads turned. He was a man whose presence filled the room, not just because of wealth, but because pain has a way of carrying weight. He approached the reception desk. "I'm Tyler Jenkins. I got a call." The nurse's eyes widened slightly. "Yes, Mr. Jenkins. Thank God you came. Please, follow me." She led him down a bright, sterile corridor. He could smell antiseptic and fear. As they walked, she spoke softly. "Ms. Robinson lost a lot of blood during delivery. We've stabilized the baby for now, but she's fading fast. You're her only match. We've prepared the transfusion unit. If you'll just sign the consent form, we can start immediately." Tyler's footsteps slowed. The nurse stopped at a door marked ICU, maternity. Behind the glass, he could see Juliet, pale, motionless, surrounded by wires and monitors. For a moment, all the noise around him faded. He saw her not as the woman who betrayed him, but as the woman he once held as she laughed in his arms. And then, just as quickly, the memories turned dark. The tabloids, the betrayal, the humiliation, the letter. His hand clenched into a fist. "Mr. Jenkins," the nurse asked gently, "should I prepare the paperwork?" He didn't answer right away. His eyes stayed fixed on Juliet, her chest rising weakly, her lips barely moving. He could almost hear her whisper his name through the glass. But then, his pride spoke louder. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I can't do it." The nurse blinked. "Sir." "She made her choices. She's not my responsibility anymore." The words came out colder than he intended, but he didn't take them back. The nurse's voice trembled. "Mr. Jenkins, she'll die without your help." "Then that's on fate," he said, turning away. He started down the corridor, his footsteps echoing against the tile. The nurse called after him, desperate now. "She was carrying your child." He froze. His heart stopped mid-beat. "What did you say?" "The baby, she's stable, but she's yours. Ms. Robinson told us before she passed out. She never stopped hoping you'd come." The air went silent. Tyler turned slowly, but he didn't go back in. He just stared at the closed door from a distance, jaw tight, eyes glassy. For a long moment, he looked like a man split in two. Then, in a low, trembling voice, he said, "It's too late for that." And he walked away. Inside the hospital ward, Juliet's monitors began to dip again. Her breathing faltered. Nurses rushed to adjust the machines, but they needed blood, fast. "Still no donor?" the doctor asked. The nurse who had spoken with Tyler shook her head, eyes wet. "He refused." The doctor cursed under his breath. "Then we'll keep searching." In that chaos, in that desperate room, a janitor standing nearby overheard everything. He'd been cleaning the floor outside, mop in hand, when he caught the words "rare blood type." Matt Tregonning paused and looked up. "Excuse me, did you say she needs O negative?" The nurse turned, distracted but polite. "Yes, but it's a very rare." "I'm O negative," Matt interrupted. "Same type. I can donate." The nurse blinked. "You're sure?" "Yes, tested last month during a work health check." For a second, she just stared at him, a janitor offering to save a billionaire's wife. She nodded quickly. "Follow me." Meanwhile, Tyler stepped into the parking lot. Rain pounded his shoulders, soaking his coat. Carl rushed forward, holding an umbrella. "Sir, how is she?" Tyler didn't answer. He just stared at the sky, eyes heavy with conflict. "We are done here," he muttered finally. "Let's go." As he slid into the back seat, the hospital doors swung open behind him, and Matt Tregonning jogged out, following the nurse toward the blood lab. Their paths missed each other by seconds. Two men. One with everything. One with nothing. But only one of them was about to save a life. Back inside, the nurse rushed Matt through the process. "Are you sure you want to do this?" she asked again. "You don't even know her." Matt smiled softly. "Don't need to. Someone's mama's in trouble. If I can help, I help." His calmness radiated something pure, the kind of quiet goodness that doesn't ask for applause. As the transfusion began, Juliet's heartbeat slowly steadied. Her color returned, faint but real. And in that sterile hospital room, something sacred happened. A stranger's blood gave life back to a woman who'd been dying, and to a child she'd brought into the world alone. Outside, Tyler's car turned the corner and disappeared into the rain. He didn't look back once. But somewhere deep inside, his heart whispered a question he'd never forget. What if this was the moment I was meant to change everything? The rain fell harder. Thunder rolled. And destiny, quiet, patient, began to write a story Tyler Jenkins would one day wish he'd written differently. Life had not been kind to him. Matt grew up in South Dallas, in a neighborhood where dreams were fragile things, easily broken, rarely repaired. His mother, a nurse's aide, raised him alone after his father died in a construction accident when Matt was just 8. He remembered the sound of his mother crying quietly in the next room that night, thinking he couldn't hear. And he remembered her words the next morning. "Baby, no matter how hard life hits you, promise me, you'll never turn away when someone needs help." Matt kept that promise. Every day. He wasn't rich, but he was rich in something else: kindness. The kind that doesn't make headlines, but changes lives quietly in hallways no one notices. Meanwhile, across town, Tyler sat in his luxury penthouse staring at the untouched drink on his table. Something inside him wouldn't let him rest. He didn't know why, but he suddenly felt uneasy. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was something deeper. He turned on the news, trying to distract himself. But his phone buzzed again. A new message. From the same unknown number. "She's stable now. A stranger saved her. You were her only match, but someone else stepped in." The words hit him harder than he expected. A stranger. Someone who didn't even know her. He set the phone down slowly, staring at his reflection in the glass. For the first time in years, Tyler Jenkins didn't like the man staring back. The first thing Juliet Robinson felt was light. A soft warmth across her eyelids, faint and golden, cutting through the fog of anesthesia. She blinked slowly, her vision swimming in and out of focus until the blurred edges of the hospital room sharpened into view. Beep, beep, beep. The rhythmic hum of life. Juliet turned her head weakly. The morning sun filtered through the blinds of St. Mary's Hospital, brushing across a bouquet of fresh lilies beside her bed. Her breathing was steady now, fragile but real. For a long moment, she just stared at the ceiling, tears welling in her eyes. She was alive. And somewhere nearby, so was her baby. A soft knock came at the door. It was the nurse who had stayed by her side through the night, the same one who had delivered the news that Tyler wouldn't come. "You're awake," she whispered with a relieved smile. "How are you feeling?" Juliet's throat was dry. My baby." The nurse smiled gently. "She's perfect. Breathing on her own now. Strong, just like her mother." Juliet let out a shaky sob, covering her mouth with trembling fingers. Can I see her?" "In a few minutes," the nurse said softly. "But first, there's something you should know." Juliet's brow furrowed. "What is it?" The nurse hesitated, then stepped closer. "The transfusion worked. You pulled through because of a donor. Someone stepped in at the very last moment." Juliet's eyes widened. "Tyler?" The nurse shook her head. "No, it wasn't him. It was one of our janitors. A young man named Matt Tregoning." Juliet blinked, stunned. "A janitor?" The nurse nodded. "He volunteered without hesitation. We told him about your condition, and before we even finished the sentence, he rolled up his sleeve. He said, 'If I can help, then I'm supposed to.'" Juliet pressed her hand over her heart, tears spilling freely now. He saved me." "Yes," the nurse said softly. "And your baby too." Across the hallway, Matt sat on a worn leather chair near the staff lounge, sipping weak coffee with a gauze bandage taped to his arm. His face was pale, but his smile, that gentle, humble smile, never left. He didn't do it for praise. He didn't even tell anyone his name when they asked for a statement. He just said, she needed help. That's enough. The head nurse walked in and shook her head in disbelief. "You know, I've worked here 20 years, she said, "and I've never seen anyone step up that fast." Matt chuckled softly. "Guess I was in the right place at the right time." "More like the right heart," she said warmly. "You saved 2 lives tonight, Matt. That's not something most people can say." He just smiled again and whispered, "All I did was what my mama taught me." Meanwhile, miles away, Tyler Jenkins sat in his car, engine idling outside St. Mary's Hospital. He didn't know why he drove there. He told himself he just wanted to make sure she survived, nothing more. But deep down, he knew that was a lie. He parked, his reflection glinting in the rearview mirror, eyes tired, jaw set, soul unsettled. For once, money couldn't buy peace. He took a deep breath and stepped out, walking into the hospital he once thought he'd never set foot in again. As he moved down the corridor, staff members whispered, recognizing the billionaire in the tailored coat. But Tyler didn't notice. His mind was somewhere else, replaying every harsh word, every decision, every missed chance to be human when it mattered most. When he reached Juliet's room, he paused at the door. Through the glass window, he saw her, pale but radiant, eyes closed, her hand resting gently over a small pink blanket in her arms. A baby girl. His baby girl. He froze. The sight hit him like a tidal wave. He thought he'd forgotten what love looked like, but there it was, wrapped in white, breathing softly in the arms of the woman he once swore he'd never forgive. He turned to leave, guilt too heavy to bear, but a voice stopped him. "You can go in, you know," said the nurse, the same one who'd called him hours ago. Tyler exhaled shakily. "She doesn't want to see me." "She almost died," the nurse replied. "And I think she'd want to see the man who should have been here." Her tone wasn't harsh, just honest. Tyler nodded silently and stepped inside. Juliet stirred at the sound of the door, her tired eyes fluttering open. When she saw him, her breath caught. "Tyler." He stopped a few feet from her bed, his eyes glassy. "I heard you made it." She gave a faint, trembling smile. "Barely. But I guess that's enough." He swallowed hard. "I should have come sooner." Juliet's gaze softened. "You came. That's what matters now." He hesitated, then nodded toward the sleeping baby. "She's beautiful." Juliet's eyes glistened. "You think so?" He nodded. "She looks like you." They both fell silent for a moment, the kind of silence heavy with everything they'd never said. Finally, Tyler whispered, "Who was it?" "The donor." Juliet looked down, her voice trembling. "A janitor. His name's Matt Tregoning. I don't even know him, but he didn't think twice." Tyler's chest tightened. "A janitor?" Juliet nodded, her eyes misty. "A man with no connection to me. Gave what you wouldn't." The words hit like a knife, not out of spite, but truth. Tyler stepped back slightly, his throat tightening. I didn't know." Juliet interrupted gently. "You didn't want to." And in that moment, Tyler Jenkins, the billionaire who could buy the world, realized there were some things money couldn't fix. He left the room quietly, the sound of the baby's soft breathing echoing in his heart. As he walked down the hallway, he saw Matt by the vending machine, still in his janitor uniform, sipping coffee with that calm humility. Their eyes met. For a moment, neither spoke. But in that silence, something passed between them, something deeper than words. Tyler finally said, "You're the man who saved her." Matt shrugged lightly. "Just did what anyone should." Tyler looked down, guilt in his eyes. "No, not everyone would have." Matt smiled. "Then maybe that's what needs to change." The sun hung low over St. Mary's Hospital, painting the sky in soft amber. The chaos of the night had melted into a gentle stillness. Patients were resting, nurses moved quietly through the halls, and the world outside began to wake again. But inside, 3 lives had been changed forever. Tyler Jenkins stood in the hallway, his gaze locked on the vending machine's reflection. His tailored suit, his polished shoes, his expensive watch, none of it made him feel like a man anymore. Not after seeing a janitor do what he couldn't. He walked toward Matt Tregoning, who was gathering his cleaning cart again, ready to start another shift like nothing extraordinary had happened. "Matt," Tyler began, his voice rough, "I don't know how to thank you." Matt looked up, surprised but calm. "You don't need to thank me, sir. I'm just glad she and the baby are okay." Tyler exhaled slowly. "You gave something I couldn't. You didn't even know her, and yet." Matt smiled faintly. "You don't need to know someone to care, Mr. Jenkins. Sometimes, doing what's right doesn't ask for permission or history. It just asks for heart." Those words hit Tyler like a quiet storm, not loud, but deep. He swallowed hard, staring at the floor. "I thought I was punishing her for what she did years ago. I told myself it was justice. But now I see it was pride. Pride so loud it drowned out my humanity. Matt didn't speak. He didn't have to. Tyler continued, voice trembling. You saved a life. And in a way, you saved mine too. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. I want to do something for you. Anything. You name it. Matt shook his head. You already can. Just don't forget this feeling. Tyler froze. Matt continued. You've got the power to help people I'll never reach. If you really want to thank me, use that. And with that, he nodded politely and walked away, pushing his cart down the corridor, his reflection growing smaller in the shiny floor tiles. Tyler stood there, speechless. 2 days later, Juliet was discharged from St. Mary's. She walked slowly through the lobby, her baby cradled close to her chest, sunlight catching the soft curls of the newborn's hair. As she reached the hospital doors, she froze. Tyler stood outside, holding a small pink blanket and a bouquet of white lilies, her favorite. Juliet, he said softly. She hesitated. You didn't have to come. I know, he said, but I needed to. He looked down at the baby, his voice trembling. I don't deserve to ask this, but, can I hold her? Juliet studied his eyes, the same eyes she once fell in love with, but now filled with something new, humility. She nodded. Her name's Grace. Tyler smiled faintly as he held the baby in his arms for the first time. Grace, he whispered. Fitting. Juliet looked at him quietly. You can still be her father, Tyler. But not because of your money. Because you finally found your heart. He met her gaze, eyes glistening. Then I'll spend the rest of my life proving I deserve that chance. Weeks later, the grand lobby of the Jenkins Foundation headquarters buzzed with media. Cameras flashed, reporters whispered, and a large new banner hung across the marble entrance. St. Mary's Hope Initiative. Free emergency care for low-income families. At the podium, Tyler stood before the press, his voice steady but emotional. 3 weeks ago, he began, I was a man blinded by pride. I thought forgiveness was weakness. I thought pain excused cruelty. But then, one night, someone reminded me what real strength looks like. He paused, scanning the crowd, his eyes landing on a modest figure standing at the back in Janitor's blues. Matt Tregoning. Tyler continued, a young man with nothing to gain, and everything to give, saved 2 lives that night. So today, this foundation is dedicated to people like him, to the ones who quietly keep the world turning. He turned toward Matt, who looked shocked as the cameras followed. Matt, Tyler said, smiling genuinely, you didn't ask for anything in return. But today, I'm proud to announce that you'll be heading our new community program, full scholarship, leadership training, and a management role. The world needs more hearts like yours. The crowd erupted in applause. Matt's eyes welled with tears. He stepped forward slowly, shaking Tyler's hand. I don't even know what to say, he whispered. Tyler smiled. Just keep being who you are. Juliet, holding baby Grace in the crowd, watched the 2 men, one who had lost everything and learned humility, and another who had nothing yet gave everything. She whispered to her daughter, remember this, Grace, heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes, they wear janitor's gloves. In life, we all face moments that test our pride, moments when forgiveness seems impossible. But true strength isn't in holding grudges, it's in letting go. Because sometimes, the people we overlook are the very ones God sends to remind us what humanity really means. The camera fades on Tyler, Juliet, and Matt standing together, a billionaire, a mother, and a janitor. 3 lives forever bound by one night, one choice, and one miracle called grace. Pride can make us powerful, but compassion makes us human. And sometimes, it takes a stranger's heart to teach us how to love again.